lot of people don't realize that the presidential election that just occurred and the inauguration process is a lot bigger than we can even imagine. And let me break that down. So back in 1871, our country, America, was sold by our president, Ulysses S. Grant, to basically the royal family. We became owned. We lost all sovereignty, all freedoms, all constitutional rights. We became what is called the USA Incorporated business entity.
King George III is President George Washington. And I realised that I never actually asked him why, but he's been saying it for the last few days, that our king here, George III, was George Washington. So I went and looked up a little bit of information. This you can stop and look at it yourself. I was just reading through it. A bit of information about George III. So say stop the video and have a look. But what it is I've added this piece at the end. I really hope this lady doesn't mind, but there's a reason why I've put a few minutes of her video in. It's because I'm not saying it. You know, I can tell you it. I can go and listen to what she says and more or less copy what she said. But I wanted you to hear that someone else was thinking on the same lines, because I'll explain as this goes on. We've got a few more minutes to go yet, but there you are. You can read all about George and stuff like that, because he was probably your president. I just find it incredible, because I just love it if history was what it was supposed to be and we actually were reading about what really happened, but we're not, and none of it adds up. And when you go and do your own research, you realise by putting this together and that together, you realise, oh, there's a totally different story. We're uncovering it day by day. You know, that's one of the reasons you come to my channel. I'm showing you the footage, I'm showing you it's still his story, but nothing is what it's supposed to be, none of it. Anyway, there you go, there's some presidents. And now we're on to George Washington. So, for anybody that doesn't know much about George Washington, there's be some information about him. Oh, this bit's so important. Anyway, everybody forgets about John Hanson, the first president of the United States. And it's so confusing because you and me, we research and we look things up. I mean, there you go. I don't know if that's real, to be honest. Someone's made that. But what it is he did. And he's sort of been omitted out of history. So obviously you can stop this video and read anything that I've put up of information about him. But he could only be president for 2 years. All of them could at that time. And yeah, he's Amours. It's just like that name follows you everywhere, doesn't it? He was quite a good man when you read up about him. But then when I was reading up about what everybody thinks about King George and King George and George Washington, basically everybody's saying, oh, thank you so much for that history, oh, I love the way you explain this, and I love the way you explain that. And basically they're still giving wrong history, his story, because that's not what happened. Anyway, so obviously this is about him. So you can read that as it's going along. But what I wanted to say was that the lady, who I'm going to put a couple of minutes of her video in, basically what she's done is, they said that King George was mad and he had to go away, or he was out of the public eye for a while, and he was that insane they had to restrain him, I think she says. But actually what it was is, for us, he just disappeared for a while. And when he disappeared, he was over in America being George Washington. And the reason that I'm putting her words in, and I hope she doesn't mind, is because it's someone else saying it. It makes such sense. He disappears here, he's over in America, and he's being president there. Because we feel the same, I feel the same about the Tsar of Russia and Edward, whatever he was. Hang on a second. I start recording and my daughter starts talking, so I just had to sort that out. She's just come back from work. Anyway, the doors. Anyway, basically, that's why I'm putting her in, is because she explains that there's this missing period of time for the King of England, and when he was missing here, he was in America being your president. And don't you think that's just, it's just getting ridiculous. It really is. You can't trust anything, which means you can't trust the laws. You can't trust your politicians, you can't trust any of them, because they're such liars. And you think most of these people would know. They're going to know the truth.
Because it does. Okay, so here is a portrait of King George III, and here is a portrait of George Washington. Now, they're not identical, but they're not that different. Okay, same hairdo anyway. They're like the same hair. You couldn't say that they're not the same, but there you go. Okay, so obviously it gets better than that. Have a little look here. So here he is, George Washington. He is the first president of the United States, and he began his time in office in 1789 until March 1797. So let's go over here and we'll see what happened with King George III. And I do know a little bit about him, but not that much. So, when John Adams was appointed American minister to London in 1785, George had become resigned to the new relationship between his country and the former colonies. He told Adams, or so we think, he told Adams, I was the last to consent to the separation. So he was the last one to say it was okay. But the separation having been made and having become inevitable, I have always said, as I said now, that I would be the first to meet the friendship of the United States as an independent power. So he did not want to let them go, but he decided he was going to be the first friend, or first leader, not entirely sure. Start here. By this time, George's health was deteriorating. Okay. He had mental illness characterized by acute mania, which was possibly a symptom of the genetic disease porphyria. I hope I'm saying that right, although this has been questioned. A study of samples of the king's hair published in 2005 revealed high levels of arsenic, a possible trigger for the disease. The king may have had a brief episode of the disease in 1765, but a longer episode began in the summer of 1788. How convenient. At the end of the parliamentary session, he went to Cheltenham Spa to recuperate. It was the furthest he had ever been from London. Just a short 100 miles, but his condition worsened. In November, he became seriously deranged, sometimes speaking for many hours without pause, causing him to foam at the mouth and make his voice hoarse. Mad. Now, is that mad angry or mad crazy? He would frequently repeat himself and write sentences with over 400 words, his vocabulary becoming more and more complex. His doctors were largely at a loss to explain his illness, and spurious stories about his condition spread, such as the claim that he shook hands with a tree in the mistaken belief that it was the King of Prussia. Treatment for mental illness was primitive by modern standards, and the king's doctors treated the king by forcibly restraining him until he was calm, or applying caustic poultices to draw out evil humors. Okay, you have a royal person in power who's going crazy, apparently, and needs to be restrained. Are they going to be out in public? No, they've been shuffled off, apparently, quote-unquote, to Cheltenham Spa since 1788. How convenient. In the reconvened Parliament, Fox, not sure who that is, and Pitt, the Prime Minister, wrangled over the terms of regency during the king's incapacity, and while both agreed it would be most reasonable for George's eldest son, George Prince of Wales, to act as regent, to act on his ill father's behalf with full powers. So here we have the son acting on the father's behalf with full powers, and the actual king has been squirreled away since 1788 and is too insane to be seen by the public. In February 1789, the Regency Bill authorizing the Prince of Wales to act as regent was introduced and passed in the House of Commons, but before the House of Lords could pass, George III recovered. So very interesting. So now he's recovered, but he's not in power anymore. So where is he?
What it is this lady has realised there's a window of opportunity that George III can disappear from here and go over to the United States of, wait for it, she's going to say, Austria. And that's what America used to be called. And be the President, George Washington. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
They tried to shoot him in May 1800. Let's go have a look again. Because he would have been back by then.
His story means deception. It's no other. It's not history. Well, it is history now, but it's a fake. It's a wrong history because it's through deception. That's what you've realised. You've been deceived, which takes your freedom away.
So very interesting. So it says in here that in 1789 they introduced the bill to be passed in the House of Commons, and before the House of Lords could pass it, though, George III was recovered. So when was it passed? So if you guys can prove to me that he was walking around, because it says here, what do we have? 89 to 97. I'm not seeing him again. Right? This is just going on about his recovery and then all kinds of other stuff that's happening.
She can see the window of opportunity for George III to disappear and be George Washington.
So George had become resigned to the new relationship between his country and former colonies. He told Adams, "I was the last to consent to the separation, but the separation having been made and having become inevitable, I have always said, as I say now, that I would be the first to meet the friendship of the United States as an independent power." But what's so interesting is that the United States at that time was the United States of Greater Austria. Was it not? Not America.
You know, the open air boot camp that we're living in. Is this where it all began? When it was the United States of Austria then turned into the United States of America for them to play their games. What's your thoughts?
First use of United States of America. When was America called the United States? Here we go. Let's have a look at that. But then people have said, well, the reason that they did that was because this is the birthplace of the Illuminati. And we all know that George Washington was a Mason. What was George? Probably. And there, look, he looks like Albert Pike in his old age. They really don't change, do they?
So I'd like to say thank you very much to Sarah Tarnan, I think that's her name, and the title of her video was called The Madness of First President King George Washington III. So what's your thoughts on all this? So that's this lady and Nigel saying George Washington is King George III is George Washington. I'd like to say thank you for any bits of information I've used, because you know that's how you put it together, but I'll put a link to both the videos below. Anyway, thanks for watching. What's your thoughts?
Now, what does that have to do with anything today? So many of you just watched the inauguration and things that took place, and a lot of things stood out. And the biggest one was realizing that Trump actually has never left, quote unquote, office. You see, there's two presidents. There's two types of worlds that we're living in. One that is fake, one that is built unconstitutionally, one that is based on certain laws, one that is based on corruption and manipulation, and based pretty much in a foreign occupation territory known as Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. also works in coordinates with the Vatican and also the royal family, and then you tie in all other places where the deep state operates to control and depopulate the world. Sounds aggressive, right? On the other timeline, there is a constitutional republic. And this is why you've seen Trump wear these hats that said 45-47. He never left. It looks like he did. It looks like he had to resign or step away for Biden to come in. But the whole Biden administration was just to wake the world up to how corrupt these people are. You have to zoom out. This whole process, the last 8 years you've been seeing, more than that, has literally been a global military operation. How, what, and why? To wake up the public, to restore back our Constitution, to transfer power from a centralized, corrupt, globalist, New World Order, deep state government back into the hands of the people. And so what you have just witnessed and what you are going to continue to see from what's happening at the border, what's happening in our economy, what's happening in pharmaceuticals, what's happening in banking, what's happening in DC and politics, which is now no longer and is a bankrupt corporation, we are becoming sovereign and free as a country. We're returning power back to the people. This is the most amazing time to be alive. The best is truly yet to come. And when Trump says the golden age, that is beyond what most of us can even comprehend. To get to these places, though, we have to wake up. We have to zoom out and connect the dots and realize this whole time we've been lied to, living under this corporation where we are the employees and the government has been our boss, when in reality, these roles should have been flipped since day one. I pray that you stay peace. I pray that you stay grounded. I pray that you share this and really start to look into things of how this corporation has been dissolved, how the power is going to be returning back to the people. And when you start to connect these dots, when you zoom out, you'll realize that nothing can truly stop what is coming. And the best is truly yet to come. God bless you.